Hi everybody and good morning. Happy September 21st. We are almost to the end of this month. That is wild. Thank you so much for being on here with me. Good morning. Make sure you get your name in the chat, unless of course you are subscribed, then you don't have to worry about that. But can everyone hear me and see me okay before I keep going? Let me just make sure everyone can hear and see me just fine. Perfect. Thank you, Susan, for letting me know on this what is going to be a very hot day. We had like beautiful fall weather for a few days, and now it's all hot and toasty again. But it looks like it's going to calm down and cool down in a few days. So I will take that. I have halfway through decorating my front yard for Halloween. I'm working on it, right? Definitely ready. I'm eating lots of Halloween candy, getting ready for next month. All good things, right? Except for the heat. Maybe that's not so great. But good morning, and thank you all for being here with me for our abnormal psychology class. We'll do our usual kind of stuff today. I want to give you some feedback from last week with the discussion. We had our first exam, which I'll talk a little bit about as well. I'll give you some reminders for this week, which is kind of a usual typical week format. I'll give you, of course, the extra credit question for joining me, and then I'll see if any of you have any questions for me, and that will be our plan for the day, like usual. And I hope everyone's doing well and hanging in there. We're definitely kind of chugging along through the semester, so I hope everyone is doing okay. Let's go ahead and go over to Canvas together and take a look at our course and at last week. We are in week number 6 as of this week. Week 6, 1/3 of the way through the semester. But last week, week number 5, we had a couple of things going on. So just a few comments from last week before we move forward. So last week we were looking at the topic of stress and trauma-related disorders, so how stress affects the body, PTSD, ASD, dissociative identity disorder, and that kind of stuff. I hope you enjoyed the chance to do the mindfulness training. I really think that those mindfulness activities can be really helpful. And as I shared with you previously, I always kind of rolled my eyes when people said mindfulness, and I've definitely changed my perspective on that a little bit over time, of learning to be mindful and present and aware. And so I hope you enjoyed the chance to do that. I wanted to share with you, it's not necessarily mindfulness, but it's my favorite like mindful relaxation video that I've ever done. And so I'm going to put it up here just for a moment in case you wanted to look it up. But there's this video called Guided Meditation and Visualization for Stress Relief, a Forest Walk. And it's probably my favorite of all of my like guided relaxation activities. It's very, very pretty. Like it's basically just this whole like visualization of walking through a forest. And I always picture like a fall forest for right now, but they just have kind of like this image up here, and then it's this guided relaxation visualization activity. And so I'll put that here. I'll put the link in the chat in case you want to check it out. But it's one of my favorites. It's on some random, on somebody else's YouTube channel, but I love it. It's such a great activity to do when I find that I'm like stressed out. I will take a few minutes and do that. Close my eyes, find a quiet place and do that. So I will share that with you just in case you were interested. I'm going to close it now, but it looks like this: guided meditation and visualization for stress relief. So if you find that you're feeling stressed and you would like to try it, I would definitely recommend it. Like I said, it's my favorite. And right now, I picture a very fall forest since we are in the month of September. So anyway, back over to Canvas. So I just thought I'd share that with you. As for the discussion last week, discussion number 5, most of you did a wonderful job. A lot of people got full points on this, sharing your scores. A lot of you were like, I have a shamefully high score, and that's okay. You know, this has definitely been a stressful year, and college students are notoriously some of the most stressed out populations, so don't feel bad if your score was a little high. But a lot of you took the test, shared your reactions, talked about how you cope with your stress, both positively and negatively, or constructively and maybe not so constructively. And then as far as the activities go, they were kind of all over the place. A lot of you talked about some of the ones that you did, and then struggles. Several of you said that you had a little bit of a hard time focusing, and that's totally normal. The first times that you're doing these, they can actually be a little bit difficult to focus, and you have random thoughts. I find myself thinking about my fantasy football teams as I'm supposed to be walking through a calm, peaceful forest. I'm walking through the forest, and then, he's hurt, So it can take a little bit of work and effort to make sure that you are getting better at doing that. But otherwise, really nicely done. Don't forget to respond to a peer. Still seeing a handful of you not responding to a classmate. So I know I say that every week, but please try and remember to do that. You want to make sure that you get those 2 very easy points each week. So overall for the discussion, great job. I hope you again enjoyed the mindfulness activities. I left the link in here in case you wanted to try other ones. I thought that might be kind of fun to leave that there for you. And then as far as the exam goes, I was really happy with what I saw from your grades on the exam. And I hope that you feel like the exam was very straightforward and clear. A lot of you were clearly well prepared. The average score and the amount of time that people took tells me that a lot of you took some effort to prepare for the exam. And it definitely paid off for the vast majority of you. So just a few statistics, and I sent this out in the email last night after I graded everything from last week. The average score on the exam was a 93%. So the average score was an A. Very nicely done. Now, I didn't make this test any artificially harder than it would have been had you taken it in person with me without a book. So I definitely think that what that tells me, again, is a lot of you were prepared, studied, you were organized. So hopefully you feel like it was, again, matching up very well with what we've covered. But the average was a 93. There was the high score of 100. So two people got 100% on the test. And then there were a couple of low scores. The low score was a 52. But most of you got A's and B's. Lots and lots of A's and B's on the test. The other thing that, just to share with you, the average amount of time people took to take the test was 63 minutes. So you have 75 minutes to take it. Most of you finished in around 63 minutes. So what I saw was a lot of people in like the high 50s to mid 60s, but 63 minutes was the average. So again, overall, most of you, pats on the back, should be very happy. You did very well on this test, and so that's very nice to see. I always like to encourage you to use the exams as a learning opportunity. So if you feel like you could have done better, now is a wonderful time to kind of mix things up, try something different in this second unit. Maybe what that means is you start studying a little bit earlier, or you study each week as you go along. Make sure you know all the terms from that week's materials. Maybe writing out the terms on the study guide if you didn't do that last time. But again, a lot of you should be very happy. If you're happy with your score, approach this second unit the same way, and you should be in great shape. If you aren't happy, great time to tweak a few things and turn that around. Remember that you can do these 2-point extra credits every week. So if you do these all the way through the semester, that will definitely add to maybe a lower test score or make up for a missed discussion. And that's purposeful, give you a little bit of leeway and wiggle room as you go through the semester. So I think that is all that I want to share about the exam. Again, overall really nicely done. Any thoughts or comments or anything related to the exam or last week? Anything at all before I keep going? I'm going to put that in the chat here. Any thoughts, comments, or questions? Anything like that before I keep moving us into the next week? Week number 6. I can't even believe it. Wait just a minute just to make sure. All right. And while I'm waiting to see if you do have any questions, let me post this again in the comments, as I will do every week. As I mentioned last week, the free subscription that a lot of you have was only good for a month. A lot of you fell off, and not a lot of people renewed it. So please, if you have a moment, it saves me so much work. So I really do appreciate those of you who take the time to go and renew that. Remember, you're not paying for it ever. Please don't ever pay for it. You're just renewing for free with that Amazon Prime subscription, or you could do it for the first time if you've never done it. All the instructions are on Canvas. If you scroll up here all the way into that first area, you can see subscribing and then resubscribing. All that information is right here as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm again reminding you, just because I think it really does make a big difference as far as your experience and also the work on my end. So thank you. Somebody said, I just want to say thank you for all the videos. It's very helpful as we aren't in person. You're welcome. Thank you for saying thank you, right? It's definitely a lot of extra work. So I appreciate the thank you. Thank you both so much. It's definitely an adjustment. I hadn't taught this class online before COVID, and I teach a lot online, so I'm very familiar with the format, but I appreciate you saying thank you. So thank you as well. Perfect. All right, so let's go to week number 6 and look at this week. So this week, if we open this up, we are on chapter 8. So I went a little bit out of order because I feel like chapter 8 does a really good job following chapter 5. So chapter 5, we were looking at disorders of stress and trauma. Chapter 8 looks at disorders featuring somatic symptoms. Somatic refers to the body. And so these are things that are often very fueled by stress and trauma. So I think it's a very logical progression from chapter 5. So in this chapter, we'll look at things like illness, anxiety disorder, conversion disorder, things that are a little bit rare, but really interesting. We'll also look a little bit at faking mental illness or faking being sick, things like Munchausen syndrome. So here are the slides for you. Of course, make sure you watch the lecture video that I created and posted right here. So when you watch the lecture video, there are a couple of different clips in there, which hopefully will make it interesting and help you to understand it. So it's just a Zoom link, so make sure you click on that. You can take notes or you can watch it multiple times if you need to, but it is there for you as I go through the PowerPoint slides and lecture on chapter 8. And then there's a discussion for this week, of course. So for this discussion, what I did is I went through the news and I found some real news stories that are directly connected to the topics we're covering in this chapter. So what I have here are 4 different case studies, and they're all brief, right? Just a little couple sentences, about a paragraph. But these are 4 abbreviated news stories about people who are struggling with disorders featuring somatic symptoms. So what you'll do is you'll read through each one of these 4, and for each one, you'll decide which disorder from this chapter you think best matches what's going on, and then I want you to, of course, explain why. So you'll read about Brian, and then you'll decide what disorder from this chapter he has and explain. And then Blanca, Tom, and the Wilfred family, Leslie, right? So you'll read about all of these, and they're, again, all true stories. And then you will diagnose them from something with this chapter and explain why. And then the last thing that you'll do is you'll create your own scenario. So you're going to generate your own brief case study for one of the disorders featuring somatic symptoms. And be sure to describe it enough that somebody could guess, right? So what I want you to do is make sure that you give lots of information so that somebody else, in theory, could read your example just like one of these and then diagnose that individual. And this can be someone from your life. It can be inspired by someone from a movie or a show. I always think of my sister-in-law, Kim, in our family. Crazy Kim, they all call her, which isn't very nice, but it's true a little bit, I hate to say. But I always think of my sister-in-law, Kim, who definitely has some Munchausen syndrome going on and is always faking illness. There's always something catastrophic going on with her. And so I would probably use her as an example, but it can be someone in your life, or it can be inspired by, any of these stories or any of the examples that I've given you or something in the media as well. Okay. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else with this. So again, make sure you read through each of the 4, diagnose them with one of the disorders from this chapter, explain, and then create your own. And of course, when you're ready, you'll hit reply. But also make sure that you're replying to one of your classmates. So don't forget to do that as well. Okay. Somebody asked, could our response to a peer involve answering their case study and explaining why we think the person in their scenario has a certain disorder? Yeah, for this one, I love it. That's a great suggestion. So maybe what you could do for this one, and no one has posted yet, but you could very easily read somebody else's study and give your opinion. That would be wonderful, and that's definitely appropriate. You can go in any direction you want with your peer response. A lot of people will share like, oh, I connected with this in some way, or I really like the way that you phrased this, or that's a great example. But I think in this discussion, that's a wonderful tie-in, and I love it. Great suggestion. I like it. I like it for sure. The only other thing for this week, if we go back here, back to week number 6, is you also have the Twitch extra credit question, which I'll give you here in a moment. A couple of quick reminders, right? So I posted the reminder here to double check your subscription. Again, a lot of you did fall off in the last week or two, so please double check that. And then our next Twitch live stream will be on the 28th. So let me put that in here. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Tuesday, 9/28, the last Tuesday of September at 8:30 in the morning, right? So that's when our next Twitch live stream will be. Next week, we are in week number 7, and we will be looking at chapter 6. Again, kind of a normal week. And then when we get to week number 9, that's when you'll be doing the second part of the paper. So I'll talk about that in the next week or two, just to make sure you know what is expected and if you wanted to get started early. But for now, focus on reading the chapter in the textbook. Read chapter 8. Watch the lecture video and all the little video clips in it. Complete the discussion. And then let me give you the Twitch extra credit question for this week, so you can earn those 2 points for joining me. This is something that I definitely talked about in the lecture, and it's also something that you can find in the textbook. But our Twitch extra credit question for week number 6, we put it in the chat. Here we go. What is the biggest difference between disorders featuring somatic symptoms and factitious disorders? And there is one very big difference between these two categories. So what is the biggest difference between disorders featuring somatic symptoms and factitious disorders? And so you can describe that. There really is one big key difference between the two. If you go back to Canvas when you are ready, you'll click on Twitch extra credit number 6 right here. And then when you're ready to answer it, you can hit start assignment up here at the top. Start assignment. And then you can type your response right here in the box and hit submit. Okay. So confetti, right? Very exciting. So when you're ready to do that, you can do that anytime before Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. And remember, if you do these earlier in the week, I typically grade them throughout the week. And so if you do get it wrong, I oftentimes will say you're welcome to try again before the deadline. But you have all the way till Sunday night if you need it. So make sure you get going on the required stuff for this week, reading through the chapter in the book, the video, the discussion, and so on. And then remember that our next Twitch live stream will be next Tuesday. Are there any questions or thoughts or comments? Anything fun and exciting? If we were meeting in person together, I would ask you how things are going. Anybody have any kind of fun, exciting things? I have one I'm dying to share with you. I mean, just because you have no choice but to listen. I'm going to go to the Rams-Bucks game on Sunday at SoFi Stadium. I'm so excited. I've never been there, and it looks beautiful. The stadium just looks so amazingly beautiful, and I get to see Brady play for the 3rd time. I've been to 2 other games in the past, and I'm so excited. I haven't bought my tickets yet, but I'm checking like religiously, trying to find the perfect seats. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm a little nervous to be there with so many people, but I'll be fine. I'll wear my Brady jersey and a mask, and I'll be set. So thank you. Yeah, I had to share it with you because I am definitely very, very excited. Though I've heard the food there is awful. So I've heard have food before you go. Parking's $100. Can you believe that? Just to park at the stadium, $100, right? I could keep rambling. I will. So we're kind of officially done. If you need to go, you are more than welcome to. But I just thought I'd share that with you because I'm incredibly excited about it. So I'd say I'd say look for me, but you probably won't see me in all of those people in the stands. But anyway, if you do have any questions or thoughts or comments or anything at all, I will be here. I'm going to hang out for the next like 9 minutes or so until about 9 o'clock. So if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, anything I can do to help you, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week, a wonderful day. Hang in there. Take care of yourselves. Go check out that other guided relaxation activity that I shared with you if you're feeling a little stressed. And I will hopefully see a good chunk of you next Tuesday morning. And have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. So I'm going to minimize my video, but I will hang out for a little bit if you do have any questions. Thank you as well, Susan. Have a wonderful week. Oh, yes, I'm always playing fantasy football. I didn't have the best fantasy football week, but yeah. Though I do have Cooper Kupp. He's been saving me a little bit. But yes, definitely playing fantasy. How about you, 805? Are you playing, do you play fantasy football as well? Anthony. You can always distract me with football talk. It's very easy to do. But yes, everyone, I have a wonderful week, and thank you so much. If you didn't put your name in the chat, of course, make sure that you do that, unless you're subscribed, and then, of course, you don't need to worry about it, as I can download your name afterward. Oh, yeah, Kyler has been on fire. He's been so good. I had a Fitzpatrick who is now gone. So now I have a Jameis Winston who got me, I think, a grand total of 2 points this week. So, yeah, a little bit of a rough week. But I do have McCaffrey and Kupp, so they have been carrying me as well. Kyler was a good choice. Trying to make some trades this week. I got to get some new blood on my team. Somebody asked, on the hierarchy of science, where would you put psychology? Well, that's a tough one. So psychology is a science, but a lot of people don't view it that way, right? It's the scientific study of thinking and feeling and behaving, of mental processes. But as far as going, in terms of like a hierarchy, I would say it's kind of in the middle. A lot of people view it as more of an art. I mean, just the fact that most bachelor's degrees are bachelors of art in psychology, a BA in psych rather than a BS, a bachelor's of science. So it definitely can carry a little bit of that stigma of not being super scientific, though I think it's something that a lot of people are trying to change. There's a lot more of a focus on critical thinking and scientific thinking than there used to be. 2-0, I'm a Cardinals fan and kind of a Patriots fan. My dad's from Boston. Nice. I was a huge Pats fan for years until Brady left, and now I guess I'm a Bucks fan. Good. Well, I'm glad you thought it was a good answer. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Psychology is definitely a science, but it's not. I wouldn't put it up there as the most rigorous of scientific studies, but it's definitely something that I think we're working more and more toward being more scientific. Thank you. You as well. Have a wonderful week. What do you mean about categories, right? So categories in psych are pretty arbitrary. Which categories do you mean? Like subfields or sorry, I'm not quite understanding. Give me a little more. Like a mental illness, for example, like categorizing different mental illnesses like anxiety and depression and so on. I don't know if I'd say they're arbitrary. I mean, when it comes to mental illnesses, for sure, like they have very clear categories that are defined by kind of overarching characteristics of people struggling with anxiety or people struggling with mood. Um, yeah, so I feel like they're pretty well defined. Psychology, like we said, right? It's a science, and so there's a lot of research in the field, especially when it comes to like categorizing mental illnesses, of really trying to make sure that everything is very empirical and based on data. And I feel like that's something that we do pretty well, though there's obviously a lot of stigma that can come with it, with categorizing people as well. So I think it's a very mixed bag, but I feel like the categorization is done fairly well, in my opinion anyway. I hope that helps. It's a little harder one to answer. All right, everyone, if you think of any questions between now and the end of the week, of course, feel free to email me. I hope you'll have a wonderful week, and I will see you all next week on Tuesday.